Great question, by the way. Nobody's asked me about this, and I'm so glad you brought it up. It's a brilliant question. Nobody talks about this. This is why I want to bring attention to this. Nobody failed. Nobody took a wrong turn. Nobody made a mistake. Nobody wasted years of their life.
Yep.
They gave themselves the opportunity, or the lead that they're going to turn into gold. They gave themselves the opportunity to go from one end of the spectrum, complete victimhood, completely being victimized, to knowing themselves as the creator of all experiences, including the experience where they felt victimized. Watching this and attracted to Lauren's work will be souls that are so evolved that they would have used a narcissistic relationship or something of that nature as a catalyst to be able to propel themselves upward. And when you realize that you created the narcissist and placed them in your soul blueprint to catalyze you, to give you resources, to make you unbreakable, to make you resilient beyond any measure.
Well, thank you for joining us. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Pete Sapper. I'll tell you about how I found out about Pete. I found out about Pete through TikTok, and I'm always telling my clients and students, be very picky with whatever you're consuming, any type of media, the people you're around, food, all the things. Like, your energy is so precious. When I say, like, I love Pete's channel and I love Pete's content, that's a big deal because I'm so picky about those things. His content, in my opinion, and how I experience it, is all to help people elevate their consciousness, which is what I'm all about. So I was very drawn to Pete's work. And Pete, can you tell us more about who you are, your journey, and your purpose?
Yeah, so I'm really what I've just done is mastered the laws of the universe. That's pretty much it. And the laws of the universe are the laws of you. They're the only actual laws that matter. Man's laws don't control anything. That's the narcissism of humanity, believing that their laws actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things. So I had a very, very painful life, okay, from the onset. And so I wanted to gain some level of mastery. I was very, very motivated to gain a level of mastery over my life so I could have some control over, the outcomes and moving towards what I want instead of recreating what I don't want all the time. And this is the default setting of the universe. We'll constantly be recycling experiences that we don't want to have unless we gain a level of mastery. So I was very, very motivated to do so, and I had a very burning desire to attain that level of mastery, to develop that level of mastery. And if the desire is strong enough, I'll give you guys the award-winning thing at the beginning. If the
Yeah.
desire is strong enough, that's all you need.
Mhm.
Desire is the first order of creation. It's the most powerful frequency to work with as far as a creator. And so if the desire is strong enough and there's no interference in the way, like I don't deserve this or I'm not good enough, if the desire is strong enough, it'll burn away all of that other nonsense of the third dimensional matrix. And we will have the permission slips, so to speak, uh, come our way. We will actually attract the permission slips that allow us to bring that desire into fruition if the desire is strong enough, and if we do not dampen our desire by questioning or doubting it. And the one thing I will give everybody is the way to keep that desire strong is to understand that your desire is God's desire.
Absolutely. I always say our desires are divinely placed. They are for you, because one of the ways I think people argue for their limitations and create doubt or block or stymie things is that, oh, well, who am I to have that? Like the unworthiness stuff, or that's I struggle with it sometimes too. That's for everyone except me, or yeah, right, everyone wants that. What do you think about things like that?
The way to understand immediately if it's a matrix program is when you have the thought, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or it's for other people. How do you feel
Mhm.
when you have that thought? When that thought comes across the screen of your consciousness, how do you feel? The way you feel, using the tangibility of the experience, will always tell you whether it is true or false, because we all have hardwired within us the highest form of wisdom, which is our emotional guidance system. And the emotional guidance system is always telling us through the signal of emotion whether something we are whether we are what we are perceiving is false, or whether it is the way source perceives it. So when we have a negative emotion, it is the clear indicator that what we are believing, what we are perceiving, the way we are perceiving is false. And so that's the quickest way to deliberate whether all of these thoughts that are just floating around in the air, none of them are ours, whether these thoughts should be given any weight or identified with. And I'm telling you, no thoughts should be given weight or identified with because none of them are ours and we don't control our thoughts. We don't control the thinking process. We just collide with thoughts based upon what we are resonating in the present moment. So our frequency, the rate at which we vibrate, because what we are is a vibration,
Mhm.
the rate at which we vibrate will determine what thoughts we can uh, have come across the screen of our consciousness. And the way to deliberate immediately whether those thoughts are something you want to buy into and give power to or not is your emotional guidance system. What is the feeling that corresponds to that thought? And if the feeling doesn't feel good, that's the first indication that the thought that you are believing in is false.
Absolutely. So within that, it's better to ignore your thoughts, not give them as much gravity, and pay attention to your frequency and how you're vibrating.
The only thing a master creator thinks about when we become conscious creators, the only thing we think about is what we desire to create and nothing
Mhm.
else. Nothing else flashes across the screen of our consciousness. And we develop that self control and self discipline as part of the self mastery process or becoming a conscious creator, no longer manifesting unconsciously, but consciously creating what it is that we desire, which is which exactly what God desires.
And what are you focused on creating at the moment?
So what I'm focused on creating a platform by which people can remember who they are. That's
Hmm.
it. I mean, most people will call that a teacher or a leader of New Earth or anything. I could just call it somebody. I was a nightclub promoter for many years, and what I did was I planned events and brought people together, and people would come together and they would have fun, and then they would go home, and the whole thing would be erased from their memory. So now I'm bringing people together for the only cause that really matters, and that cause is freedom, is
Mhm.
regaining our spiritual sovereignty, remembering who we are as limitless creators.
I love it. And speaking of creating things, like I said, please follow Pete on on TikTok and YouTube, and you're on Instagram as well. Um, but you, in one of your videos, I saw you were talking about having some kind of like imposter syndrome, and I know you've had like different channels and different, phases of content creation. So, what helped you get over that? Because, like we said, if you have a desire, it's divinely placed and you're supposed to express it out into the world, and it's, helping other people. So, how did you get over any type of what's called imposter syndrome, any doubt, anything like that in terms of putting your content and having this message flow through you?
So evolutionary tension, I asked the universe to become fearless. That was my order. Place
Mhm.
that order with and so the universe doesn't just bestow fearlessness upon you. It bestows it upon you in a way where the way you would bestow pressure upon a piece of coal to turn it into a diamond. And so that's what happened. So I manifested situations, circumstances that would terrify the most brave soul, and that's at that point when I came out of those realms that the universe sends you to, the lowest frequency realms that the universe sends you to apply pressure on you to create you into a diamond. By the time I'd come up, the world had nothing for me. The pressures
Mhm.
of the world were nothing. So it's imagine the universe sending you to a boot camp and putting you through. Let me put it this way: what you do not fear, you do not need to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And what, if you don't mind getting into, just because maybe some people can relate, what were some of those hellish experiences that you went through?
So the only real documented understanding of this is in the mysticism, the Jewish mysticism of Kabbalah, and they talk about
Mhm.
the tree of life, which is how we express our purpose, how we bring our purpose or our desire and intention into physical reality. The way we act as a single perspective, unique perspective of source, and bring that thing that source desires to experience through our unique perspective into fruition. There's also an underside of that. And so there are certain situations where we desire to have massive soul expansion within a single incarnation. And in order to do that, we would have to apply massive evolutionary tension upon the individual soul. We would have to catalyze massive growth within a short period of time. And the way we do that is with the underside of the tree of life, which is the tree of death. And the tree of death, essentially, when you've initiated that process, when you've initiated yourself into the underworld, into the that process. And this won't make sense to the majority of souls. Thank God for that, because this is not something that you want to do frivolously or capriciously.
Yeah.
You initiate yourself into this initiatory system. You are sent into the hell realms or the lowest frequencies of existence, and you live through a version of Earth that the majority of us can't imagine. And again, thank God for that.
Mhm.
So you have massive evolutionary tension applied upon your consciousness to where nothing really scares you or nothing frightens you anymore because you've seen the worst of the worst and the world's got nothing for you. And a lot of individual souls here that are on the negative polarity do this process, initiate this process consciously. They use invocations and they summon certain deities, and they initiate this process, and they even let the spirit that they're summoning kind of take the lead of this process. With those of us who aren't as extreme, we initiate this process subconsciously, and again, it's the intensity of the desire that actually does all the work. It brings all the synchronicity into existence. So you don't actually need to consciously know if you're going to initiate yourself into a catalytic experience like that. You don't actually need to have conscious awareness of this. The wisdom within you, the timeless wisdom within you, the mighty I am, or the God presence, the God spark, that which you really are, will initiate and do the whole thing for you. It will lead the whole thing for you. So for those of us who are not negatively oriented or want to make contracts with certain astral entities, we we when our desire is strong enough, the God within us does the rest and makes. And this is why in the Bible it says, "Knock and it shall be opened; ask and it shall be granted." That they take that literally. If your desire for something or you're asking for something is strong enough, the universe will handle it. With the universe, which is just a higher expression of you, will handle it for you.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key piece is that the desire for a different level of consciousness, the desire for a different experience, and to not repeat the same thing, which is where a lot of people trip up until they basically hit a rock bottom moment. And then it's like, okay, I can't keep doing things the same way. Something has to change. And then we find certain teachers that progress that evolution. And you talk about that, like some of the maybe like more 3D and 4D teachers that you started with. And I think that's so relatable. Some of the people that are like, okay, I want to learn, I'm in this toxic relationship. And then you find something on YouTube that kind of like still keeps you in that space. And then I don't know, at least for me, but it sounded like for you too, like there was a steady evolution and ascension in terms of your teachers until you had some teachers that really made a huge impact, like RJ Spina and some other ones. So can you talk about that trajectory of different teachers and what you've learned through that?
Yeah, so the teachers we attract will serve a multitude of purposes. Not all the teachers we attract are going to be examples of being a good teacher. Okay,
Mhm.
when we're excessively naive, let me put it that way. I'm gonna try to keep it kind. When we're extremely naive, we will kind of buy into anyone who sounds like they know what they're talking about. And so uh, this helps you to develop, I mean, every single experience, and this is so important. If nobody gets anything else out of this, get this. Every experience is created because it serves us. It has evolutionary content and data in it. And so, if we are aware that every single experience we have has evolutionary content and data in it, otherwise it would not even be brought into existence. That we are co-creating with the universe, which is just co-creating with ourselves. It's one being co-creating within itself. Uh, if we understand that every single situation from the highest perspective is created because it serves us, we can vibrationally align with the benefit of how it serves us. So having attracted terrible teachers that had me, chasing my tail in circles for years was giving me an example of exactly how not to waste people's time or
Hmm.
exactly how not to have people cast their pearls before swine. So that's pretty much it. If you align with uh, the understanding that everything you create serves you, then you become the ultimate alchemist because there's no such thing as a wasted experience or a failure. At that point, you would see that everything that you believed from the human perspective as a failure was actually a resounding success. But you have to be able to see that literally every cloud has a silver lining, and that's not just some bumper sticker or some statement that you make
Yeah.
and to post on Facebook to get a bunch of likes. It's literally how the fabric of existence works.
100%. There's no such thing as a waste of time. It's an illusion, and I think it's correlated to the emotion of resentment, which, gets to be transmuted into appreciation and even love. But that's a big thing with clients I work with that are getting out of a toxic relationship. They're like, I wasted so much time. They got my best years or whatever. I'm like, that's the idea of your time being wasted does not exist. It's fear-based, it's based in resentment. And there was a lesson in every moment, every breath you were taking in that experience with the teacher that maybe didn't serve you, the relationship that didn't serve you, the job that didn't serve you. There is a huge lesson in there. Think gold in there. And you talked about that like with your 8 year relationship that really helped, I think, jettison you into a different place, not just physically, like moving across the country, but I feel like that was a huge teacher in a way. How do you think about that?
No question. I mean that situation where you don't understand what you're dealing with, and
Hmm.
at that point, I was dealing with somebody who had a severe personality disorder, and they didn't have any desire to bring awareness to that, and so I was didn't know what I was dealing with, and that particular personality disorder I was dealing with is very misunderstood. It revolves around an individual using an external source as their way to regulate their emotions and make sense of the world.
Hmm.
So I literally became this person's lifeline, and then they became very resentful that they were so dependent on me. And so that went back and forth for 8 years, not knowing, neither of us having the awareness to understand what's happening. And when awareness is not there, we are at the mercy of the default settings of the universe, and you do not want to be at the mercy of the default settings of this universe. And the default settings of the universe are so incredibly harsh because they are uh, eventually catalysts. If you make your life a living hell, you'll be very motivated to create the opposite. And that's how it served me. So I would ask everybody to look at the things that they believe didn't serve them and ask them how it did serve them. And then they can vibration align with the benefit of every experience they've ever had and leave nothing on the table. Because I assure you, from the highest perspective, no mistakes were made.
Absolutely. And you said something there, and I'm going to segue into your book. Like, if you've experienced hell, you could create the opposite in your life, which is heaven on earth. In your book, I don't think I've ever highlighted a book so much. Like, there's like everything I was just like resonating with so much. And then I also took notes for this interview. But, and I know like everyone get this book, you'll be like, yes, yes, and underlining everything for sure. And then, yeah, let's start with so you have a chapter about like creating heaven on earth. And what I liked about it and how it flowed is that the chapter before is about becoming love. And when you can become love and fall in love with yourself, this is what I got out of it. And I want to know your response. That is how you create heaven on earth. It's not from like your relationship or, where you're trying to find it in someone else. So you're making someone else dependent on you. It comes from that. And then I'll read this. Every person, the moment you fall in love with yourself is the moment you fall in love with everyone and every experience. You love it like you would love a newborn child. When you fall in love with everything and everyone, you can carry the vibration into everything, and you can only create heaven on earth. And I think that ultimately that's what we want to do. Whatever heaven looks like for us is what we want to do, but we have to love ourselves so much. Do you want to speak more to that? Because I just love that so much.
It won't make sense to people in its fullest form until they realize that there's only one self to love.
Hmm.
That's it. When they realize that falling in love with yourself is falling in love with everything in your experience, and the moment that that happens, you vibrationally align with the benefit of everything in your experience. And this is why the idea of falling in love with yourself is equals falling in love with so-called others, which are all aspects of yourself, because source energy is everything. So falling in love with yourself is falling in love with everything because you are everything, and that changes everything because there's no more resistance or denial that this thing shouldn't have happened or I was victimized by this so-called other outside of me. Everything is seen as a co-creation. Everything is perceived from the oversoul perspective or the highest perspective. That nothing could have ever created itself in your experience that didn't serve you. And when you are in that place, you are stepping into, you're transcending the victim victimizer paradigm. Okay, the idea that there's more than one being here victimizing victimizing or villainizing or demonizing itself. And when you realize everything is one thing, that's when you have incredible power as a creator, because then nothing is outside of your reach. Not happiness, not joy, not the thing you want to manifest, not your ideal relationship. Nothing is beyond your reach when you realize that you are everything and everything is within you. And that's why that phrase is repeated over and over and over, like I'm trying to brainwash the person who's reading it into remembering who they are.
Absolutely. No, that is true in this book, and that repetition is literally the rhythm of the universe and how we create new neural pathways and better ones. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for creating this book. And oh, let's talk about surrender. I have had, I think a lot of people have, especially when you're on this journey of ascension. Surrender is a big part of it. And I think at first there's a lot of resistance to surrender. It's misunderstood. Um, there was a quote that here, when you can be still and know, you trade emotionalizing and thinking for knowing and loving. It's the core vibration, your true vibration of unconditional love that is birthing heaven on earth. And that's what brings the fifth dimension into reality. So I think that's so beautifully put it. It kind of like, for me, sums it all up. But can you expound on surrendering and anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, sure, Lori. Great question, by the way. Nobody's asked me about this, and I'm so glad you brought it up. It's a brilliant question, and I'm not surprised. Surrender, there's two states of being in terms of experiencing our life. They're literally, you can boil it down to this black and white. There is surrender, which is be still and know, I am
Mhm.
God. And there is struggle, which is complete lack of self, ignorance of self. Okay, not understanding that the flow of your life has already been set up. It's already been planned by you, your higher self, which are one thing. And you, as an aspect of your higher self, are experiencing that soul blueprint, and not a moment of it is unplanned. So surrendering is surrendering to the flow that has already been set up. Surrendering is surrendering to the control that has already been set up from your higher aspects, from your higher perspective, from both your higher self that controls this incarnation and your oversoul, which organizes your consciousness over all your incarnations. And those who are watching this and attracted to Lauren's work will be souls that are so evolved that they would have used a narcissistic relationship or something of that nature as a catalyst to be able to propel themselves upward. And when you realize that you created the narcissist and placed them in your soul blueprint to catalyze you, to give you resources, to make you unbreakable, to make you resilient beyond any measure, so
Mhm.
that nothing that this life had experience had to throw at you could stop you. Because once you've survived an abusive relationship, especially if you've been dragged through the mud for years, there's literally nothing else that this world has for you.
Absolutely. Now, what if, and I'm just saying, like, when people are first getting introduced to work like this, I can't surrender. I have like so much pain. Let's say it's after ending a toxic relationship. I have so much pain and resentment that they're focused on revenge or just masking the pain with a new relationship, which is just going to be another toxic relationship that they're attracting because they haven't done any work. What would you say in terms of helping someone understand surrender at that point in their journey?
Okay, so a surrendered state. Let me give you an example. A surrendered state would be I just got dragged through the mud in a toxic relationship, and when I come out on the other end, I ask myself, why would I create this, and how is this serving me?
Hmm.
And if I can't find the benefit in that moment because I'm so drowning in my emotions, which is leaking my creative life force, emotions are energy in
Absolutely.
motion. And so I'm getting in a heightened emotional state with my attention from an unawakened state with my attention on what I don't want. And
Right.
because I'm in a heightened state of emotionality, I'm actually generating more of that. I'm actually drawing more of that into my experience. This is a state of complete lack of awareness of self and complete lack of understanding that you're the creator and not the victim. So it's totally normal for us to, when we're coming out of these relationships, to feel victimized.
Hmm.
But if we can move through that and, give our inner child, which is just a concept that actually doesn't exist, but give the part of us that feels violated,
Yeah.
the part of us that does not know itself as the creator, allow itself to just be seen, heard, and understood, then we can
Hmm.
move right through that experience And then we can gain a level of mastery by asking simply, why would I create this and how is this serving me? This is so powerful because just the act of asking, why would I create this and how is this serving me, creates the assumption, the perspective that we are the creator. And in that moment that you assume the perspective of the creator, of the experience, of all experiences, all of the lower timelines collapse immediately, and that energy is brought back to yourself. All of
Mhm.
the energy of all the timelines wherein you are repeatedly recycling experiences that you do not prefer, being victimized, the universe mirroring your perspective of yourself as a victim by bringing more victimizer, more perpetrators, more victimizers into your life. All of those lower timelines collapse, and the energy that was what would go into those timelines also collapses, evaporates, and comes back into you. It comes literally comes back into you. And those of you who truly develop a high level of mastery in this lifetime will actually be able to see this process happening. You'll be able to see the energy moving. You'll be able to see the timelines collapsing. And just knowing that it's possible, I've planted that seed in your consciousness to become a master of the way energy works, the master of summoning energy into things that you want to create, and the master of collapsing energy when it doesn't serve you and bringing it back to yourself.
Absolutely. And I will say, not to like disagree with you, but I do think that inner child work, or what's called family systems, is a great way to start when you are in so much pain and you have these kind of fragmented parts of yourself. If you do get acquainted with them and talk to them and sort, they will like reabsorb, just like Pete is talking about, they will collapse and reabsorb into you. So it's kind of like your inner child isn't this person over here looking for love in that way. Like it just gets transmuted in a way. It really does. But I do think it can be a great way to start when when you're so dysregulated. I think it's a good way to regulate the nervous system when you're just starting out. So not that like yeah, so I just wanted to like make that because I talk about that in my course. Like it helps regulate you when you can. Then I could get more into like the surrender work with people but anyway, that's under nervous system regulation, but just to make that like a little fine tuned in my
Yeah.
perspective, but we could have different opinions.
No, no, it's not a different opinion at all. Nervous system regulation is the doorway to transcending your identification with the human character. But until you've regulated your nervous system in the way Lauren's talking about, whatever it takes, whether you're using internal family systems or you're doing parts work, or you are doing inner child work, these are all conceptual from the creator's perspective, but they're necessary in order to regulate the nervous system. Okay, and so once the nervous system is regulated, we've calmed down, then we can transcend identification with the body and the physical character all together. So what Lauren's talking about is these are all aspects of developing mastery, starting from
Mhm.
being shattered or feeling shattered in a narcissistically abusive relationship, putting yourself back together like freaking Humpty Dumpty,
Mhm.
regulating your nervous system, gaining mastery over your emotional state so you're not triggered left and right and bleeding
Yeah.
creative life force. And at that point, then we go into we're still at the point where we're putting ourselves back together, and then at some point, we transcend identification with the body altogether, which then brings us into the creator realm because we realize we're everything. At some point, we realize we're everything. We stop being this one limited body and we allow our consciousness to expand into all bodies and everything in our environment. So we're talking about a massive quantum leap in evolution, but there's a reason that I would outsource people to or refer people to Lauren first because this work needs to be done before we quantum leap because
Mhm.
anything outside of that would be spiritually bypassing this
Yeah.
process, which is an experience. If we find ourselves shattered at the end of a relationship, we wanted to have that experience.
Hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
actually part of the manifestation of becoming the creator is not being the creator and being the victim. It's literally part of it. And nobody talks about this. This is why I want to bring attention to this. Nobody failed. Nobody took a wrong turn. Nobody made a mistake. Nobody wasted years of their life.
Yep.
They gave themselves the opportunity, or the lead that they're going to turn into gold. They gave themselves the opportunity to go from one end of the spectrum, complete victimhood, completely being victimized, to knowing themselves as the creator of all experiences, including the experience where they felt victimized. So, I mean, that's the kind of quantum leap. And yeah, I don't want to discredit anything that you're doing, Lauren. It's essential. It's actually part of all of it fits perfectly. All
Yeah,
of it
no, no.
fits perfectly.
And I just didn't want anyone to come at me and or us in the comments like inner child because it has its place, but it's part of the continuum. And in like my course, for instance, on toxic relationships and healing for them, it's kind of like we start there. Like you created this. This is like, this is your ascension. This is, your whatever, hero's journey, whatever you want to call it. But that's why I have the words and thriving at the end of it, because this is for you to not just, have a forum to feel like a victim or, stay in. It's for you to, propel into the next dimension, next level of consciousness in your life. But I'm telling you, these people could be the best thing that ever happened to you. I say that over and over again. And sometimes people are very triggered, but you get it. You explained it beautifully just there about why these relationships are so important and why we chose them. So thank you for that beautiful explanation, Pete. And now that that you mentioned that we're not the body, can you explain that? Because some people are like, what does that mean? Of course, we're in a body. Can you explain more?
Yeah, so we're not in a body, our body's in us.
Hmm.
Okay, and so if you understand what a soul is, it is a fractal of God. Each soul, each individualized soul unit is a fractal pattern of divinity. It's like a hologram, and we're the one sliver. The entire hologram is God, and we are a sliver of the hologram. Now, if you cut off a piece of the sliver, a sliver of a hologram, and you open that sliver up, it contains the entirety of the hologram. This is the way all of creation and the multiverse works. We are a fractal of God, which means we contain everything. Okay, so we contain everyone and everything within us. We're like the doll within the doll within the doll within the doll, but the little doll contains everything the big doll has. So this is the way that we are. We are a mini me of our higher self. Our higher self is a mini me of God, and God is a mini me of the absolute. And this is the way it works, but it's all one thing. There's no separation whatsoever. So the all is in the one, and the one is in the all, and this is one of the universal laws. It's the one of the few four laws that is true throughout all of creation, no matter what. So there's nothing that's outside of us and nothing that is separate from us. When we realize that from the highest perspective that we didn't just choose the narcissist, we created the narcissist. There's nothing else to create the narcissist from but our energy. And so when we realize that our body is within our soul, this is incredibly important insofar as nervous system regulation. We have to, as long as we believe we're a body inside of a world, which is the opposite of the truth, as long as we believe, and this is the illusion that's in the third dimension. There's an illusion that I'm this body and the world is outside of me, rather
Hmm.
than the world is being projected from within my consciousness and projected out. And that's what it is. The world is us pushed out, in the words of Neville Goddard. It is our consciousness out pictured and then reflected back by the universe. So once we understand, and I teach this as a critical part of feeling of safety, because until we feel safe in our bodies, even though we're not in our body's in us, we can't actually absorb any higher consciousness, anything. And this is where every teacher that I've ever had has completely dropped the ball. They didn't start with nervous system regulation, and they didn't start with creating a feeling of complete safety in the body,
Hmm.
because again, as long as we are tethering our consciousness to body consciousness, we're limiting ourselves as a creator to one body when we are all bodies and we are everything. We are limiting our consciousness to what one body can create, which is very little. And we are limiting our ability to feel safe and then even access higher consciousness teachings. So as long as the nervous system is dysregulated, because we are in a threat, and this is highly, highly relevant for anybody who incarnated into a female avatar, because they literally walk around in a perpetual feeling of unsafety. Just because, if you're believing in the illusion that the world is outside of you and it's a dangerous world, and there's all these so-called others that might victimize me, we're in a constant state of dysregulation. We can't absorb any higher conscious understandings, and we can't feel the oneness of all of creation. Once we feel the oneness of all of creation, we really start to become unlimited as creators, because we realize that we are everything and everything is within us.
Thank you for that. And yeah, that it is about nervous system regulation. The concept of understanding that from like we are not completely our body. Like we pick this body, and this is kind of like how does RJ Spina put it? Like like if you're going scuba diving or something, or no, like if you're going to space, like you have to put a suit on. So you have a suit, but you are not the suit. Like you're just using that vehicle to navigate through this lifetime. So understanding, and personally, when I understood it that way, and I continue to understand it that way, like I don't get sick. I just randomly like lost 15 pounds that I didn't need. And so, without, I wasn't trying or anything. I just kind of like, oh, okay. And just everything kind of upregulated physically for me because I wasn't identified with these things about my body, especially being in a female body, that aren't true. So, thank you for explaining that on your YouTube channel. That please don't forget to subscribe to Pete's YouTube channel. You were talking about the importance of joy. And recently, I would say in the past year, I've really been trying to understand, or exploring what is joy. I feel like it's been this word that people just toss around, and it's cute, and like let's make quotes on it on Instagram. But what is it for me to experience joy? Why is it important? How is it related to manifesting? So, what's your opinion about joy and all of those questions I just asked?
Yeah, so joy is your true nature. Okay. And
Hmm.
again, this goes back to understanding that we're not a body. Einstein said reality is an illusion, albeit a very persistent illusion. Right. So if we believe we're the body, that's going to be real, and the physical world will have all of the control over us. We're going to get sick. We're going to get run down. We're going to get exhausted. We're going to eventually develop some kind of disease. This is why transcending body consciousness is incredibly, incredibly important. As long as we believe we're a body, we are literally, as the creator, saying, yes, I am the body, and the physical world has all the control over me. I am a body within a world, and that's the situation. But when we understand that we are source energy, we're actually the energy that creates the entire experience. We're the awareness, the energy, and the sentience, or the divine intelligence, that creates the entire experience. And that sentience has no name, no image, no form. What we are has no name, no image, no form. And when the Hindu masters describe the essence of what we are, it is joy. Okay,
Hmm.
so if we want to understand how to become masterful creators, and we want to offset all of the so-called negative experiences that are available in a system of duality, in a world of polarity, if we want to offset that, we do that by cultivating joy, because cultivating joy is cultivating more of yourself.
Yeah.
When we do something that we're truly passionate about or excited about, what is the energy that is running through us? Passion and excitement. That is our actual communication with our higher self. When you feel passion and excitement, it is the higher self literally communicating with you through the energy of passion and excitement. Do this, act on this, take action on this now. That's what we
Mhm.
call inspired action. It's really the only action we should be taking, is when we feel inspired to act. And when you feel inspired to act, you won't really be able to stop yourself. It's that kind of thing. So we want to cultivate joy, and that cultivating joy on a consistent basis leads to a quality of life. And when you have quality of life, you go from, let's say you were attracting narcissists, you were magnetizing narcissists. When you have quality of life, and when you're cultivating joy on a regular basis, they are repelled from you. They cannot play in your
Absolutely.
space.
Absolutely. That is so true. And you do go through a phase where you're kind of lonely. You're like, because you're not attracting the same thing. But I promise you, you'll start to attract your tribe. But for a while, it's like crickets because they are not. I mean, even if you look at the Hawkins, David R. Hawkins scale of vibration or energy, it's like guilt, shame, which is where the narcissist or any type of cluster B toxic person like tries to keep you in those levels of energy and consciousness. And then where joy is, they're literally on opposite sides of the frequency spectrum. So you literally don't even have to do anything except be joy and let joy vibrate, like be a channel for joy. And you don't won't even have to worry about attracting those things because a lot of times we've talked about this before. People get worried that they're going to attract the same thing. And it's kind of like, well, one, trust yourself. And two, if you're really a channel for joy, they won't come near you. They literally won't be in your existence anymore. Like they're in a different dimension and you're in a different dimension. So thank you for clarifying that. How does joy help you manifest?
Yeah, beautifully stated, Lauren. We cannot perceive what we're not the vibration of. So if we're not the vibration of guilt and shame and all the matrix programs that the narcissist and other parasitic types feed on, they perpetuate that within us. They outsource their own toxic shame and guilt, and which is what the narcissist is built on. It's like built on a chassis of toxic shame and guilt.
Mhm.
So feeling like they're bad, and that's what the whole narcissistic defense is about. And narcissism, just for clarification's sake, is the opposite of self-realization. So
Yes.
how gets us to become a powerful creator is it literally brings us into a vibration where only joyful experiences can be mirrored back to us. So if we want to create something in the so-called external reality, which is just an extension of us, uh, we have to create it within ourselves. We have to become a container of it. We have to emanate that frequency, and then the universe will mirror that back to us. So if we are constantly cultivating joy, if it's our intention to cultivate joy, if it is our intention to use joy as a filter through which we have all our experiences. So we have an experience that we don't necessarily want to have, but we filter it through the experience of joy, like, and you're like, well, how can I filter an experience that I don't want to have through the filter of joy? You understand that every single experience you have is evolving your consciousness. It is expanding your consciousness. It's making you stronger. It's making you more aware of who you are as the creator. So literally every experience, when seen through the filter of joy, determines that experience. So the way we perceive is the way we create. And this is incredibly powerful. You can become truly masterful. I'm not saying everybody's ready to be able to jump to this level, but if you can truly filter everything through the lens of joy, that will determine how you experience the situation. I was in a horrible situation a couple of months ago. I was in a horrible situation. There was really nothing you could say positively about it. But I decided to have the audacity to experience the situation through joy, and then assume the state of being of freedom. And then found myself moving out of that situation very quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
the universe will always mirror our state of being. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we create a situation that we don't prefer to experience, there is a massive opportunity in that experience. If you can remember that you're the creator of that experience, and then you can decide and determine what filter you're going to perceive that experience through. Because if you filter that experience of, man, I'm in a really shitty situation. I can't stand this. I don't know how this happened. If you filter that through joy and say, this thing has massive evolutionary content for me, this has massive expansion potential in it for me. And if I can just assume the right state of being, I can move through the situation, because the universe, circumstances only mirror back our state of being. So when you
Mm-hmm.
can become so masterful that you can assume the state of being that you desire to be in 24 hours a day, regardless of what circumstances are, that's when you truly become the creator, because the universe is always mirroring back your state of being, your perpetual state of being. Now, when we're not creators, we allow the circumstances to dictate our state of being, and that's how we create the same crappy experiences over and over. We get into a freaking downward spiral, and we are allowing the external reality to create our internal state of being, to determine our internal state of being, which is the opposite of being a creator. But again, I remind you that even that lack of mastery is part of the manifestation of realizing yourself as the master.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you. And I was going to ask you to, if we could have an example from your life of you surrendering, but I think that's such a beautiful example of like, I'm in this shitty situation and I'm going to find everything, I'm going to transmute it into gratitude. I'm going to, whatever type of fear states that you could have gone into, you decided to look at how this was serving you and look how you chose this. And I think that's like a beautiful example of surrender at the same time. And then, then you could just move out of it. Literally, it's just kind of like the sea parts when you do that. And it doesn't need to make sense. Can you speak? This is something I talk about all the time with when my clients are like really arguing for their limitations. And I'm like, your new reality, what you're saying that you desperately want, it's not at the level of like, Einstein says like you can't create or have a solution to a problem at the same level of consciousness. I'm like, what you want is going to show up in a different way. It's like a different dimension. It's a different level of consciousness. So if you could just let go of like I have one client, it's like, oh, the job market, da, da, da. And I'm like, stop thinking about whatever you've been brainwashed. Just focus on what it is that you want. So can you talk more about because you talk a lot about it in this book about like not worrying about the how, like get out of that, like loosen your grip on it. Like I have this analogy that came to me, so I use it with my clients of like the reality is like reality, 3D reality is like this really coarse rope that you're just deciding to hold on to. And it's like really hurting your hands. It's like, but I'm like, if you just let go of it, you could like get what you really want. So, can you explain more about how people shouldn't worry? It's not serving people to worry about the how, and when they're creating, because creation is finished. So if they could stop worrying about the how, which is kind of a form of doubt, that they could receive what they want in the 3D plane faster, probably. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
So this is best explained through desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, behavior, which are the six orders of creation. So it starts with desire and intention. And this is why we started with desire and intention. And I said, if you desire something strong enough, it will be brought into all the things that need to come to you for that to happen will be attracted to you. The problem is the thought, emotion, action, behavior. As soon as we get into the lower frequencies of thought, that's where all doubt comes from. Okay, so we have a desire and intention. Then the mental body gets active and we start dropping into the lower frequencies of doubting that it's going to happen. Now, if we could skip that whole nonsense that we've been brainwashed into, doubting our own power as the creator, if we could understand that whatever we desire is given. In Mark 11:24, Jesus says, whatever you ask for in prayer, know that it is given and it shall be yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all you need to know about the creation process. Whatever you ask for is given, unless, of course, you doubt that whatever you ask for is given. And this is how we sabotage our own creations, by allowing the mental body, which has no place in the creative process, right? Very little place. I don't want to cut it out entirely. It was very, very pivotal in the Piscean era, in the Piscean era of the masculine dominated era. It was very, very prevalent in that, but we're in a feminine cycle now. And so we don't need to have our mental body active. We don't need to be operating in a toxically masculine doing way. It's really about setting desire and intention and then knowing that it is done,
Mm-hmm.
and not interfering with that process of it coming into fruition by thinking or doubting or taking mindless actions and engaging in mindless behaviors that are repetitive and don't lead to what we want. So if the question was, what rephrase the question again specifically, Lauren?
How do we stop worrying about the how when when we are creating a new reality for ourselves?
It's that's the only that's such a good question, because if you understand the way to counteract this, you are literally taking a massive quantum leap into becoming a masterful creator. So let's define worrying, because that's the word you use, and that was brilliant that you used that word, because that's how, number one, that's how we leak almost all of our energy, almost all of our creative life force is leaked out of us worrying. So we don't even have the energy to create what we want once we're done with that process. So worrying, let's define it, is using your imagination, which is the higher mind of God and is limitless, using your imagination to create what you do not want. Okay, so number one, we have to clearly see what worrying is. It's a leakage of energy, and it's using our imagination to create what we don't want. So now when we understand that the higher mind, or the higher self, or what you really are, exists outside of space-time. We are projected into space-time, which gives us the illusion of separation and the illusion of this thing called time, which doesn't actually exist. Where your higher self is residing and projecting you into space-time from, there is no such thing as time. It operates that everything is happening now. And that's the truth of all of creation. Time is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Creation is finished. So the moment you have a desire and intention, that desire, the fulfillment of that intention and desire is already there.
Mhm.
Right. So now this depends on how much you believe in the illusion of time, or that this thing that you want to manifest is outside of you, which it is not. Your higher self operates outside of space time where there is no time. So creation is finished where your higher self, where the desire and intention is coming from, the creation is already finished. So if we can just hold within our knowing, if we can assume that what we desire is done, and then we can feel, if we give ourselves permission to feel that what we desire is finished, and it's not in our future, it's not outside of us, it's finished within us now. The moment we have the desire, the fulfillment was the other side of the coin, whatever our desire is given. And then we can know it. And when assuming becomes feeling, a deep feeling like in every cell of your body, and then begins what you radiate. As soon as it becomes a tangible felt sense knowing, it gets projected on the screen of consciousness, and that becomes your reality. So assume it, feel it, know it is how it works. And notice that thinking or doubting is not anywhere in there.
Absolutely. And that feeling state is you're using your nervous system to feel into that. That's why we want to get it regulated and soothed. Can you talk about why that's important in terms of, or why all of this is important and why creation is finished, but in terms of the three pillars of power? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the
Thinking.
three pillars of power are the doorway to transcending the victim victimizer paradigm, the illusion that I've been victimized by anything, the illusion that anything has happened to me. Three pillars of power are the doorway out of that, and they're so incredibly simple. So, and again, I want to reiterate, and if I haven't beaten this to death, that what Lauren's talking about is nervous system regulation. That's a part of the mastery process. It's
Mhm.
an early part of the mastery process, but it's a part of the mastery process. It's why I start the whole book with that.
Yeah.
Nervous system regulation, forget about any mastery or any blah, blah, blah. Mastering your emotions, okay, which is literally mastering the way you perceive what's happening, is mastering your emotions, because the moment you perceive that something's happening to you, you're going to have a negative emotion. And again, that's your higher self telling you perceiving improperly. But this is the way we're wired in the third dimensional matrix. We're wired to believe that we're powerless victims that things happen to. Okay. So that's why we're having all these dysregulated emotions. We believe things are happening to us. They're outside of us. We have no control over them. The natural result is going to be negative emotions. And when we're constantly in a triggered, emotionally reactive state, we're literally reacting to the environment. It's controlling our state of being, which is literally the opposite of being a creator. And then we are leaking our creative life force, because emotions are energy in motion. We're leaking the energy that we're supposed to use to create our heaven on earth. We're leaking that out into nothingness. Okay. And again, I will remind you, if you feel like a failure because this is happening to you, it's part of the process.
Mhm.
It's I went through it. I'm sure everybody that watches this will go through it at some time. It's part of the actual process, and it's an experience that you wanted to have of being so not masterful that you could move through that process and then truly understand what it means to be masterful, so that you could really, really understand being a victim, so that you could truly, truly appreciate being God. And that's the way the situation works. And I'm so sorry, I forgot your question. What was the actual question, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean that no, that's a super important part of it, the law of polarity about experiencing both and how that relates to the three pillars of power.
Three pillars of power. Okay, so three pillars of power are: I'm the creator. Okay, so number one, we have to understand that we're the creator. Okay, otherwise we're going to believe we're this hapless victim in a world that is happening to us. And if that is our perception, perception is creation. The way you perceive is the way you create. The universe only says yes. It
Mhm.
always, only, perpetually says yes. It only supports whatever it is that we've determined. So if I've determined I'm a victim, the universe will bring all the people into my life that will guarantee, confirm that I'm a victim, that things happen to me. So number one, we need to have the proper perception that we are the creator of everything in our life. Every single experience we've created, whether we've done it consciously, unconsciously, from our higher aspects or from our lower consciousness, we've created everything. Number two is everything I create serves me. And this is alchemy. This is freaking alchemy. This is a teaching of R.J. Spina's of allowance. And it's literally taking a very blurry, it took me 2 years to understand that teaching of switch from acceptance to allowance. I made it so much easier. I said, just freaking understand that everything you create serves you. Okay. Once you understand that everything you create serves you, you'll understand that nothing that was created, even if it was from your lower consciousness, cannot be alchemized. This assumes that you're the creator and everything you create serves you, which means any situation, no matter how bad it looks on the surface, can be alchemized. Okay. And again, because you've made the statement that everything I create serves me, the universe says yes. The universe is so resourceful, it will find a way in which some dumpster fire of a situation that you created from an unconscious state will absolutely serve you. You have to have complete faith in your higher self and the universe, which is all one thing. You have to have complete faith in the wisdom of divinity to know that it can literally alchemize anything for you. So I'm the creator. Everything I create serves me. This collapses all the timelines, the lower timelines. We talked about this before, where
Mhm.
we are being victimized and experiencing things we don't prefer to experience. That collapses the lower timelines, brings all that energy back to us as the creator. Okay. And the third pillar is creation is finished. Time is an illusion. All possibilities exist within me now. And this is our true nature is infinite possible possibilities, all of which exist within us. Remember, fractal of God, we contain everything. That also includes every single version of ourselves. Okay. So if we understand that because creation is finished, every single version of ourselves already exists, including the version of us that has already overcome whatever challenge or has already manifested whatever desire, all of those versions exist within us now. And if we can put our awareness on the understanding that exists within us, the version of us that already manifested the thing that we desire, the version of us that is already creating massive positive impact in the world, the version of us that's already overcome the health challenge, that exists within us now. If we understand that it's within us and we place our awareness on it, by the law of attention, whatever you place your attention, you place your energy. Where attention goes, energy flows. If we can keep our attention and awareness on the version of us that is already creation is finished, manifested, whatever it is that we desire, the longer we can keep our attention to it, the longer we're feeding life force to it, the more sure and inevitable, this is a powerful word, inevitable our manifestation is.
Yes. Especially, and you want to focus on what you want. But I mean, if you continue to focus on things that you don't want, the same thing will happen. Your energy, you're that powerful. You're that powerful. And that's what I love about your book, Creation is Finished, is that you show the whole thing is about like we are that powerful. We are all master manifestors. Some of us don't realize that. Creation's finished. You could have whatever you want. And that's why you should get this book. and then leave a review. I just finished it the other day, so I'm going to leave a review, and you guys should all do that too. And then speaking of other brilliant creations of yours, can you talk about your master classes?
Yeah, sure. So the first master class is the Master Your Emotions master class. I can't stress enough the importance of what Lauren does for people in creating emotional regulation, because insofar as we are emotionally dysregulated, we are reacting to the environment. We are allowing the environment to generate our state of being, which is how we create our reality. So we are being literally embodying the victim vibration and allowing the external world to create our inner state of being and therefore create our reality. So we continue to recycle experiences we don't want. The other thing with emotions, if we don't have emotional mastery, we're constantly getting emotional. We're constantly being an emotional yo-yo up and down, left and right. We are leaking creative life force that we are supposed to be using to funnel into our desire and intention, right? Where attention goes, energy flows. Unless, of course, we're emotionally dysregulated, then our energy just flows everywhere. It's like a freaking unregulated spring of water. It's just going
Yeah.
everywhere. And typically it's going to feed some narcissist's false self,
Hmm.
right? So this is the way it is. So developing emotional mastery is number one, step one of, and again, even nervous system regulation. Before I even start the emotional mastery masterclass, I say better get that nervous system regulated first because it's the doorway to everything. Okay, and this is why therapists like Lauren, who also teach higher consciousness understandings, are so incredibly important because they understand this progression. Once we've mastered our emotions, we've mastered our creative life force, our energy, then we can start going into what it is that we specifically want to desire to create. So the first class is Master Your Emotions Master Class. That's an introductory course, it's a prerequisite course. The next one is Become Magnetic to Money Master Class. And becoming magnetic to money has literally nothing to do with money. It's about freeing ourselves from the slavery system, right? The work from 9 to 5 and get a pension and retire when you're 65 and hope you've got enough money to sustain yourself or rely on Social Security or a 401k or whatever. So
Hmm.
we unshackle ourselves from the debt slavery system, which was deliberately created to enslave us. The monetary system itself was deliberately created to enslave us and keep us in debt by
Hmm.
keeping our focus and attention on lack, which is the one thing that doesn't exist because you're so powerful, you will actually create what doesn't exist. You'll bring it into creation with your attention. So once you understand and master your emotions, you can now master your creative life force to the point where you can now summon energy from the higher mind or your higher self, which is the source of all abundance, into form. Okay. So we get rid of all delusions that money is outside of us, that money is the root of all evil, that money is anything separate from an extension of our consciousness. And we monetize our gifts, talents, and abilities. And what's important for the people who are going to be watching this and attracted to Lauren's work is those individuals, whether they know it or not, have used narcissistic relationships to reintegrate talents and abilities from past lives. And you don't need to have conscious awareness. We don't need to go into detail of this. Remember, the inner wisdom within you knows how to do this all itself. So you'll be employing and monetizing talents, skills, gifts, and abilities that actually transcend this lifetime. The ones that are watching this. So you will have a wide base of skills, talents, and abilities to monetize. And every time you can open a container or a receptacle, an energetic receptacle of something that pulls in energy and monetizes your gifts, you create a system or stream of passive streams of income. You're actually growing your energetic influence and your ability to reinvest those containers or those income streams into a new income stream. And you do that over and over and over until you are as wealthy as freaking Elon Musk. And for that to happen, you have to have a vision that is as big as Elon Musk's is. The vision has to be so big that it encompasses all of creation, that literally everyone in creation benefits from you manifesting your desire, you bringing what you desire into reality. When you summon the intention behind all of creation, that what I'm doing is not just for me, it's not just for my family and friends, it encompasses all of creation, all of existence. You are summoning that equivalent amount of energy behind your intention. This is how to manifest, how to guarantee your manifestations come into fruition because they benefit. The more it benefits all of creation, the more of all of creation's energy you're summoning behind your intention. Now, these types of nuances are explained in the Magnetic to Money Masterclass. I have not seen them in any other teachers, and I've taken every other teacher's course. None of
Hmm.
them have covered these nuances. I've gotten as detailed as possible, and that's just our introductory course. So when we roll out our full 8 hour money masterclass, you will have gold in your hands. You'll be able to monetize all your gifts and abilities. You'll be able to teach this process to others and become what you are always destined to be, a leader and teacher of New Earth.
Absolutely. And where can they find the introductory classes that you just spoke
So
about?
thank you so much for mentioning this, Lauren. They can go to magnetictomoney.org. The
Hmm.
link is magnetictomoney.org, www.magnetictomoney.org, and then you will see the Become Magnetic to Money Masterclass, the Master Your Emotions Masterclass. If you purchase the Become Magnetic to Money Masterclass, you will get the Master Your Emotions Masterclass for free. It's a bonus because it's pivotal. And before we even touch trying to master money, we master our emotions. And mastery of our emotions is mastering our creative life force. Mastering our creative life force is mastering becoming the creator.
Great. And the link is in the bio to all of Pete's stuff, including what he was just talking about. And is there any other um, courses or materials or things that you'd want people to look out of yours?
Yeah, for right now, it's just the book Creation is Finished, which is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Eventually, that'll be an audiobook, and you can get it in hardcover. Where we've just put out the first revision of that book. And then the three courses are my first courses that I put out, and they're the only courses you need. I assure you. The only other thing I would draw your attention to if you're watching this is the interview I did with Lauren that has key pivotal understandings of how to navigate narcissistically abusive or other pathological relationships, and that'll be on my channel. I would uh, I would suspect that Lauren will put a link in the video description to lead back to that video. Because if this is where you're at, if you're coming out of a narcissistically abusive relationship, you want to understand exactly what Lauren went through in that interview. And then you want to, if you feel ready to work with Lauren to regulate your nervous system, bring all of your aspects back together, your fragmented aspects back together, and then create a feeling of safety in the body, and then you're ready for higher consciousness understandings. Then you're ready for becoming the creator.
Absolutely. Pete, thank you so much for your time and all of this rich wisdom. And, watch this interview again and again. Watch all of Pete's stuff on TikTok and YouTube again and again to have it absorbed because you're absorbing things in different parts of your brain, your conscious and subconscious mind. So we want to just have that, just through repetition, get into the subconscious mind. Read this book, read it again and again. Is there anything else that you want to say, talk about, any parting words?
Parting words are just the three pillars of power. I'll reiterate. You're the
Yeah.
creator of every experience in your life.
Hmm.
Everything you create serves you. There's nothing that's ever been created in the history of your life that you cannot transform or benefit from. And when you see that clearly, you immediately vibrationally align with the benefit of everything you've ever experienced. And that is a whole lot of resources coming your way. Number three, creation is finished. Time is an illusion. Time is actually, the illusion of time is actually created by thinking, right? Which is one of the most disastrous habits that we engage in the third dimensional matrix, because thinking is not knowing. And the reason we think and believe things is because we don't know the truth. And so the moment that we are able to discipline our thoughts and shut down the thinking process, it's thinking that creates the illusion of time and the delusion of knowledge, right? And so the moment we stop thinking, we start knowing that creation is finished. And when we can skip the whole thought process and the doubt and how's this going to happen and who, when, why, where, leave that to the higher mind. It's got it all under control. When we can jump to, I'm the creator, everything I create serves me, and creation is finished, we understand that that version of us that has already manifested whatever it is we desire, that has already created heaven on earth, exists within us now. And just that knowing will begin to manifest that in the outside world. Remember, if you want to create anything within you, it has to be created within you first. You have to become a container of it first, emanate it out, project it to the universe, and the universe reflects it back. That's how powerful you are.
That is how powerful you are. That is, I think, like if we could distill for me, um, what we both do is teaching people how powerful they are and helping people elevate their level of consciousness. I can't stress enough that if you're watching this, you're attracted to this because you know on some level that you are so powerful. So you are very powerful. Read this book and listen, consume all of Pete's content. Pete, thank you for being generous with your time and this wonderful interview with so much rich, um, energetically elevated information. I'll just put it that way in energy. Thank you so much, Pete. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren, for the opportunity. It was an honor, and anytime. I look forward to working with you, and I'm so very happy that we have a resource now like you to get people to remember who the hell they are.